When Zhao Jinmai and Song Weilong finally appeared together on screen, it felt less like the launch of a drama and more like the ignition of a cultural experiment, because this was never just about a story or a pairing. It was about expectations colliding head-on with reality in front of millions of watchful eyes, and from the very first episode the audience could feel it, that uneasy tension between what they wanted to feel and what they were actually receiving. A gap that grew wider with every scene and transformed casual viewing into heated debate. Zhao Jinmai has always been an actress admired for control, intelligence, and emotional discipline. She built her career portraying characters shaped by responsibility, pressure, and quiet endurance, roles where restraint was not a flaw but a weapon, and viewers learned to trust her subtlety, to read the smallest shifts in her eyes and tone as intentional choices rather than emotional absence. Yet romance operates under a different emotional contract, one that demands exposure rather than protection, surrender rather than calculation, and when she steps into a romantic narrative opposite Song Weilong, the audience instinctively asks for more vulnerability, more visible desire, more emotional risk, but what they receive instead is caution, politeness, and emotional distance that some interpret as maturity while others experience as detachment, creating a split that no amount of beautiful cinematography can fully mask. Song Weilong enters this collaboration carrying the weight of an entirely different fantasy. His image aligns perfectly with the modern romantic archetype, tall, elegant, quiet, carrying wounds that suggest depth beneath silence. And viewers project intense longing onto him before he even speaks, yet this expectation becomes a trap, because romantic storytelling does not survive on appearance alone. It requires emotional access, cracks in the armor where pain and love spill out uncontrollably. And many viewers feel that Song Weilong's performance leans too heavily into stillness, his expressions rarely breaking, his tone remaining measured even in moments that beg for emotional release. So, what is meant to feel like restrained longing sometimes registers as emotional absence, and when two actors who both favor control meet in a romance-driven narrative, the result is not harmony but stagnation. Scenes that are visually stunning yet emotionally cool, moments where characters stand inches apart, exchange meaningful dialogue, and still fail to ignite that electric pull audiences crave. Viewers describe it as watching two parallel lines move forward without ever intersecting, and this is where frustration turns into controversy. Because the writing offers emotional imbalance that is never fully clarified, Song Weilong's character appears emotionally invested early, carrying feelings rooted in the past, while Zhao Jinmai's character approaches the relationship cautiously and rationally. A dynamic that could have produced powerful tension if clearly articulated, but instead leaves audiences confused about when to feel excitement, sadness, or hope. Emotional timing is everything in romance. And when that timing feels misaligned, even strong performances lose their impact. Much of the backlash stems from expectation management rather than objective failure. Zhao Jinmai is expected to transform into a traditional romantic heroine, while Song Weilong is expected to deliver overwhelming emotional payoff. Neither fully conforms to these demands, not because they lack skill, but because they remain within their comfort zones, and romance audiences are notoriously unforgiving when emotional fantasy is left unfulfilled. Yet, paradoxically, this very dissatisfaction is what keeps the conversation alive. Viewers rewatch scenes, analyze micro-expressions, debate whether chemistry is measurable or purely subjective, and argue over whether subtle love is more realistic or simply less satisfying. Zhao Jinmai and Song Weilong have become symbols of a much larger question haunting modern romance dramas. Should love stories prioritize emotional intensity or emotional restraint, spectacle or realism, passion or control? And as the debate deepens, it begins to reveal something uncomfortable about modern viewership itself. Because audiences today are no longer passive receivers of storytelling, but active participants who bring their own emotional histories, cultural expectations, and personal fantasies into every scene, and when those inner expectations are not met, the disappointment can feel personal, almost like a broken promise. Social media accelerates this reaction. transforming individual discomfort into collective judgment within hours. Clips are isolated, paused, zoomed in, replayed endlessly as viewers search for proof of chemistry or the lack of it. Every blink becomes evidence, every pause a verdict. And this microscopic scrutiny places an enormous burden on performers whose craft was never meant to be dissected frame by frame outside of its narrative flow. Zhao Jinmai's quiet expressions become battlegrounds where fans argue whether restraint equals realism or emptiness, while Song Weilong's stillness becomes a Rorschach test onto which viewers project longing, boredom, melancholy, or indifference depending on their own expectations, and this phenomenon exposes a deeper shift in romance storytelling where audiences crave not only emotional payoff, but emotional reassurance. They want clear signals, unmistakable passion, visible vulnerability that confirms what they are supposed to feel. Ambiguity, once considered sophisticated, now risks being labeled unsatisfying. And subtlety, once praised as mature, now struggles to survive in an attention economy driven by instant gratification. Yet it would be unfair to place the entire burden on the actors alone, because the structure of modern romance dramas often sets them up for impossible success. Scripts demand slow-burn intimacy while promotional material promises explosive chemistry. Trailers highlight charged glances and near kisses that imply intensity the full narrative may never fully deliver. And when expectation and execution drift apart, disappointment becomes inevitable. Zhao Jinmai's character arc emphasizes logic, self-protection, and emotional caution shaped by past experiences, while Song Weilong's character carries emotional weight expressed through silence rather than confession. On paper, this pairing suggests layered complexity, but complexity requires clarity to be felt, and without clear emotional markers, audiences struggle to synchronize with the characters' inner worlds, leaving scenes feeling distant rather than intimate. And yet, despite all criticism, there is an undeniable reason this pairing refuses to fade from public conversation, because controversy signals engagement. People do not argue this passionately about stories they do not care about. The very fact that viewers feel frustrated proves they are invested, and in many ways this drama has succeeded in what countless perfectly pleasant but forgettable romances have failed to do. It has lingered, it has unsettled. It has forced viewers to articulate what they want from love stories rather than passively consuming them. Some argue that real love is quiet, built on trust, shared silence, and emotional safety rather than fireworks. Others counter that drama exists precisely to elevate emotion beyond everyday experience, to offer catharsis rather than realism. And this clash of philosophies plays out every time Zhao Jinmai and Song Weilong share the screen, transforming their performances into symbols rather than simple portrayals. Neither actor is incapable of passion, neither lacks technical skill, but when placed together, their shared restraint amplifies rather than balances. And what might have worked with a more emotionally expressive counterpart instead creates a vacuum where viewers wait for a spark that never fully ignites. Still, time has a way of reshaping perception. Many performances once criticized as cold or understated have later been reevaluated as nuanced and ahead of their time. Audiences mature, cultural tastes evolve, and what feels unsatisfying today may be appreciated tomorrow under a different emotional lens. Whether this pairing will undergo such a reevaluation remains uncertain, but its impact is undeniable. It has become a reference point in discussions about chemistry, acting styles, and the future of romance storytelling in Asian dramas, and perhaps that is its greatest legacy. Not the love story it tells on screen, but the conversation it forces off screen. Because at its core, this debate is not really about Zhao Jinmai or Song Weilong at all. It is about us, about what we expect love to look like, how loudly it should declare itself, how visibly it should ache, and whether we still have the patience to sit with quiet emotion in a world that demands constant stimulation. And now the conversation belongs to you. Do you believe Zhao Jinmai and Song Weilong truly lack chemistry, or are audiences simply uncomfortable with restrained romance in an era addicted to emotional excess? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching and supporting our work. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like the video, subscribe to 24H News TM, turn on notifications so you never miss the stories everyone is arguing about. And once. Again, thank you for being part of the conversation. We'll see you next time on 24H News. TM, comments are open and we're reading everything.